Hello, welcome to Empoa Podcast. So, Empoa Podcast was created to help people find new ways of learning about themselves, new ways of learning about the world, and new ways of learning how to see themselves, I suppose. So, we also it's about inviting different coaches onto the platform so we can introduce you to different stories and different ways of how to reset your mind and how to reset yourself in your life. Today we have Inga. Inga is the founder of Empoa World and the director of Empoa World, and also is the first person that we're releasing a course on. And she's released a book and everything else. And she's also my co-host on here too. I can't even say the word now because there's too many things to say. Anyway, Inga, welcome, and tell me why you created Empoa World.
Hi, Joni. Thank you. Well, Empoa World for me is kind of like a dream. It's sort of like my life's purpose, if you like. And the reason that I feel so strongly about this is because in my own journey, I realized that so many of us focus on one particular area of our lives, the places where we have the most imbalance. So it's usually finances, relationships, health. It's usually one of these or a combination of all of them. And what we tend to do, I realized through my own experience as well, is we tend to really focus on one or two areas of our lives. And the rest of our life sort of doesn't get looked after. And we are whole beings. We're made up of really many, many parts. And each of these parts needs to be happy, essentially, for us to really live a fulfilled life. And this is all about living a fulfilled life. And so Empoa World is all about creating a platform where people can get everything that they need, essentially. So we have coaches who will be helping with health, coaches who will be helping with relationships, coaches who will be helping with finances, with entrepreneurship, with spirituality, with everything, with learning as well. Because it's so important that every aspect of us is in balance in order for us to live a truly fulfilled life. And I realized that very much on my own journey, because it's very easy when one part or more than one part of us is out of balance to become really obsessed with that. And then we don't actually become whole. And so it doesn't actually bring us to the joy that we're essentially trying to find. So for me, it feels like my life's work. It feels like I feel so passionately about this. So I'm really excited to have created this with you.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm really excited too. And you've explained it perfectly why we've created it. Tell me about your course and what's the name of your course and the webinar that we're about to launch as well. And what made you decide to create this one first? I know it's been a really long process. You've been working on this for quite a long time. And the journey has been beautiful because I've been with you. But tell the world about it.
Okay, so the course is called the Empowerment Equation. And it really is, again, it's a culmination of everything that I have learned over the last 15 years. So my journey began about 15 years ago. My marriage ended. I had to leave the house I was living in. I was left with two young children. And essentially, I fell apart. My life fell apart on so many levels. And I kind of felt like there was a choice moment there. It was either a bottle of whiskey or it was I find some other way to figure out this moment of extreme difficulty in my life. And I began with a Qigong class, and I found myself sitting on my kitchen floor when I put the girls to bed. I bought a Himalayan monks CD, and I'd turn the lights off and I'd just sit there and listen to it. And it was so basic, but it was the beginning of my journey into actually realizing that there was more to life than meets the eye. So I put the bottle of whiskey in the cupboard and I went down this path. And so in 2020, I trained in shamanism. Shamanism is basically one of the most ancient forms of healing. It was kind of the original sort of form of spirituality and teaching and philosophy. And from that, I then realized that there was more than just shamanism as well. And for a modern world, we need more than just that. And, you know, it's very much based in spiritual language. And I found that a lot of people actually find that too woo-woo. So I then started delving into the science behind why we are the way we are, why we behave the way we are, the meaning of life, and all the really big questions. And amazingly, I felt so blessed because I realized that the world is evolving. And as a result, there are these extraordinary people out there who are scientists and doctors in their fields who are actually bringing in the scientific background to all of these ancient practices, which very often we've lost in our modern society. So the empowerment equation is a combination of everything that I've learned. It's a combination of quantum science coupled with neuroscience, coupled with shamanic practices, and it's all come together to help people to really understand the truth about reality, and therefore that they are the creators of their reality. And the really important thing I want to say about the course is it's all done in really simplistic language, because the one thing that I did find was that quite often this stuff is quite complicated. And one of the things I feel really strongly about is that everybody needs to be able to understand this. So we need to make it as simple and as accessible as possible. So
is your course about people understanding their belief systems and working out what they do want and what they don't want, but using neuroscience and shamanism and the mixture of both of them together to go through that process of finding out who they are, and actually they're not broken, but actually they just might want to tweak themselves if they want to do that? Is that basically what the course is about?
it's basically there's a number of facets to it. So in the beginning, I'm teaching people the reality of reality, because this in itself changes our mindset immediately when we realize that we are not just this body with a name. That instantaneously changes the way we see the world. And then helping us to understand that because of this fact that we are actually not just a body with so much more than that we then understand that we have a blueprint, which is our life, and that there are other aspects to our blueprint and how we can change that.
So do you talk about energy quite a bit? So
I talk about energy, but not in a woo-woo way. So it's all based on the idea of quantum physics, and quantum physics has understood that we are, well, not just we, everything is energy. So when I talk about energy, what I mean is waves of movement. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. So when you go to the sea and you watch the sea and it's waving, that's essentially what reality actually is. But because the energy can move at different levels and different vibrations, it can move at different forms, it can appear to be physical. And that's when I see you, you see me, we see a chair, we see a dog.
So is it more like our emotions and our mind? So we have a fixed mind, so we have this idea, we have a problem, and this problem becomes everything. And then our energy, we're basically manifesting that problem. Is that what you're saying? So we're manifesting that problem, our energy ends up taking that problem into our bodies and into our cells. then that consumes us. So it stops us from moving on with our lives or the direction we want to go, or who we really, or we lose sight of who we really are. Is that what you're...
Basically, yeah, because what happens is we come in a very pure form. We come in as beings who have come into the human form. We've moved into something that matters. It matters. When I say matter, it means something's become important. So it moves from the wave, which is like this, and it's come down into a different form of energy. So it's a heavier form of energy, so it appears physical. So we come in as human beings, and you watch babies and they're kind of doing this with their hands, like, whoa, I've got hands. And it's beautiful because it's true, because they come into a human form. But then what happens is, because we come into a human form, we then have to become part of human life. So we're given a name. So the first thing is we suddenly develop a name, and then we're given a language depending on where we're born. And then we're taught about what is acceptable for someone like us, how to speak, how to behave, what to do. And then as we get older, we get kind of funneled into the sorts of jobs that are appropriate for someone like me to do, the kind of friends that are the correct sort of friends for me to have, the place that I should live. And we get funneled into an existence which is not necessarily our true purpose. It's really important for us to have an identity, because so an ego, if you like, an identity, in order for us to be able to be human. But we want to make sure that the identity that we have is our true identity, because otherwise we just live in misery. And so the course is all about teaching people how to shift from the original identity, and taking the parts of it that you really love. So if there's parts of your identity you love, by all means bring them with you, but shifting into a true identity, a new identity, where the life that you dream of is absolutely possible.
Do you think our ego, we need to have because a lot of people think that we should need to get rid of our ego. I disagree with that. I think our ego is really important. We need to have a relationship with our ego, and understand why our ego is the way. But also our ego can develop and change as well as we do. Do you think that is something that what we need to understand, is that bringing it all together and learning different sides of who you are, and go, well, it's not getting rid of something, it's about developing it and bringing it into your soul. Is that's what you think is?
Absolutely. I mean, the ego is fundamental, because if we didn't have it, so the ego is kind of like, it's the bit that decides we're going to be human. Otherwise, we'd all just be sort of floating around going, whoa. And the whole point about being human is that we want to experience being human, and that means in its entirety. So it's never about getting rid of anything, it's about integrating, and yes, clearing, yes, shifting, but it's through an understanding of things. And the ego is essentially what allows me to sit here and do a podcast, because if I didn't have an ego, if I didn't have an identity, you'd say hello, Inga, and I'd say who are you talking to?
I want to talk about fear, because I think fear is huge, and you've got so many different levels of fear that you just don't realize it. And a lot of people give their power away because of fear. And a lot of people be scared to do this course because of fear, and because they feel that that means they might lose people they love. They might find out who they are. It means they'll have to walk away from everyone. Do you know what I mean? Not walk away, but they'll have to really look at themselves and go, oh, actually, I can't be friends with that person anymore. Do you know what I mean? Or the job I'm in is really not right. Or I need to change myself because I've really not been true to myself. And fear suddenly will start to come up and stop you from moving forwad in that journey, or I'm not going to do that course because I'm not ready for that course, or because I've got, my parents are not well, or my son or daughter's about to start their GCSEs, or do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, or I'm about to start uni, or whatever story you're going to tell, your fear is going to tell you to stop you from doing that. How does someone get over that?
Well, I think to be honest, the most important thing is that we should always take the judgment out of ourselves from, I'm so bad because I'm not doing it. It's like, you don't want to do it. It's okay. It really, really is okay. If, the thing of the nature of reality is that everything is energy, and energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed, which means that whatever's been here has always been here, which means that whatever is here will always be here again. So we've got, you don't want to do it this time round, fine, don't do it. There's next time round. And I think the simple fact of actually giving ourselves a break and saying, I don't want to do it because I'm not going to do it, often allows us to actually do it. Because when we're putting ourselves under huge amounts of pressure to do something, we're doing it with the wrong attitude. We're doing it because we feel we've got to, or we feel, we're buying into our belief systems. I'm a bad person if I don't do it. You don't want to do it, don't do it. However, if you do decide to do it, it is just know that it is a journey. It is my book is called The Path, and it is a journey along a path which really can be tricky at times, but at the other side of it, on the other side of it, is something that is so unbelievably extraordinary. Everything that we dream of our lives being is absolutely possible, but we have to walk the walk and talk the talk. You can't just sort of jump there, because that's not how the process of life is. It's school, if you like. We're moving up the levels. But you can't start doing your A levels before you've learnt to write.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that the journey is arduous. It's the hero's journey, essentially. There will be difficulties, there will be times when we're just but if we stay the journey, what we discover on the other side is priceless. It truly is. It's priceless. So
yeah, it's also I've got a subject, this thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, is taking your power back. And we don't realize how much we give our power away in different ways and forms. And we've got so many levels of letting people take your power without even realize it. You might think, saying yes to that person when you actually mean no. Do you know what I mean? You're giving your power away a little bit. Staying in and actually you really want to go out is giving your power away. Making that phone call to that friend you don't really want to talk to is giving your power away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having a conversation with that boss that you didn't want to have is giving your power to them because you didn't have that conversation with them. So does your course, does it have a bit of that about it, so people learn to understand that the sooner they start doing that, the better, the stronger and more confident they become?
I think it's something that happens as a natural process, to be honest, when we begin the work of awareness, because the during the course, the one thing that will definitely happen is you will become more and more aware of what's actually going on in your subconscious mind, or what you're actually doing, what you're actually creating in the world. And it's all about choice. I mean, this is the beautiful thing about being a human, is we have free will. We actually have complete free will. We can do whatever we like. We might choose not to, but we can actually do whatever we like. And so the wonderful thing about this is that as we become aware of what we're actually doing, we then start to say, hang on a minute, why on earth am I doing that? Why on earth am I actually doing that? And then we can make the decision, we can make the choice do I want to do that? And we may still continue to do that. We may still make the phone call, but we'll make it from a place of empowerment as opposed to a place of disempowerment. And that is a natural thing that happens as we start to become aware of the truth about how our brains work, how the nature of reality, what's actually going on. And it's purely and simply that we haven't been told. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. It's just we're not taught this stuff in school. But it's actually very easy.
And we're not taught by our parents either, are we?
No.
It's very interesting because we think that the way we grew up was the right way for us. Do you know what I mean? But actually, our parents were going in blind themselves, and it's not until you realise that and you're like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing. They were just trying to work it out themselves.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to work it out better for your own kids. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I think, we're not taught it at all. But I also don't think we were meant to be taught it, because this is, if we weren't ready to be taught it in a lot of ways.
No, I mean, the world is in a period of massive evolution. I always like to say, this is not revolution, it's evolution. And I think, the point about it is that the nature of life is cyclical. The nature of existence, reality, is cyclical, and we're now in a moment of massive change. I mean, you just have to turn the television on to know that the world is completely different, even from how it was pre-pandemic, 5 or 6 years ago. And although it feels really scary, it's also, I think it's really exciting, because we are shifting on a massive global scale. So you're right. We weren't supposed to know this. Our parents weren't supposed to know this. This sort of stuff started to filter in the 1960s into Western society. But now, I mean, even if you go back even 10 years ago, yoga was a bit weird. Now everybody's, doing yoga.
Tell me about your book.
Okay, so my book is called The Path, and it's available to buy on Amazon. The Path by Inga Lam. And again, The Path is really a culmination of the 15 years of just what I've experienced. And because what I found when I hit this moment of complete rock bottom in my life was I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know what to do. And so what I've done is I've created the book as a sort of a guidebook to help people who are going through maybe really challenging times or really difficult moments in their life, or if you just want to change. It sort of shows you everything that's available, how it works, what's out there. There's also a lifestyle guide there, which is, you can literally take and utilize instantaneously to make changes in your life without having to spend hours trawling through internet forums and figuring this out. And there's a workbook as well with meditations, which is there. It's just really there as a stepping stone, a beginning for you if you need to change your life, or you're going through a really tough time, to be able to just grab it, take from it what serves you, and actually just leave the rest, because it's just everything I learnt on my journey.
I recommend the book. I've read it ages ago. I think it's and I recommend you to buy yourself one, and a friend buy another copy, so you can give it to a friend that you think might enjoy it, and share it, because it's a beautiful book. It does show you different ways that you can go down the path as well, doesn't it? And it's I do 100% recommend it. And could you tell me about the webinar thing that everyone can sign up for free?
Yes. So
the weeks.
Yeah, so we've got the webinar, which is on the 7th of May. But if you're watching this after the 7th of May, then you can still sign up for the webinar, and you will receive it directly into your inbox as a recording. And equally, if you can't make it, it doesn't matter, because it will arrive as a recording once you've signed up. So the webinar is a taster session of my course, and there's also another recording video of a live event I did on Friday. And they're just taster sessions. So if you're thinking about maybe doing something you're looking for change in your life, you're looking to shift things, you need a different direction, or you're just struggling, you're in a point of your life where you're really, really in need of guidance, then this is a taster session which is going to help people to really start to understand how the mind works, what actually is going on, why you're feeling the way you're feeling, what is, you know, happening in your mind. And also I go through techniques as well.
Inga, so we'll have all the links for Inga's course, her webinar, and her book and YouTube, where you can find her, all underneath. And you can just click on it and find out more about Inga and go down the rabbit hole. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. I loved it. Thank you, Joni.
Speak to you later. Bye.
Bye.